Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about one that I've slotted into a couple other categories because, my feeling about these is that when you have one of the greatest recordings ever, you need to push it. There are so many recordings of everything these days that unless we talk about the ones that really stand out, no one's going to know what they are because God knows the record labels aren't going to do anything for them. And so we need to push. We need to keep them in the public eye. And I do that by taking some of the really greatest ones and sticking them into various playlists. And one of the playlists was if I could choose only one recording by, artist X, it would have to be piece Y. Well, I should do some more of those. Those are fun, weren't they? Okay, we will. But in any case, artist X is Karel Ančerl, and work Y is Mahler, Symphony number 9. And I think we have some agreement here. Oops, there we go. That was really smart. There we go. Finster agrees with me, don't you? Yes, you can tell. Look at the expression on her face. Let me find the CD. Okay, there we go. Mahler, Symphony number 9 with the Czech Philharmonic on Supraphon. It isn't just the fact that we have Ančerl. It is also the fact that we have the Czech Philharmonic, which is amazing, and was at its absolute peak when this was recorded in 1966. Yeah, it's a very good sounding recording, too. What is it that makes this recording so special? Well, like I said, you've got the Czech Philharmonic with its incomparable woodwind section, which you have to hear in the inner movements particularly. The clunkiness of the second movement, the way that they snap and snarl in the rondo burlesca, which Ančerl doesn't take too quickly. He lets them articulate. And that's part of what I wanted to get at about what makes the performance so special. It's not just that the playing is going along with what Ančerl wants them to do, but it's also, are you paying attention? Finster, pay attention, please. Thank you. There we go. It's sometimes that that the emotional core of the music really, really comes through. There are performances of this symphony of absolutely blazing virtuosity, but they leave you rather cool. Things happen in this music, desperate things. The first movement is about the collapse of hope, essentially, and the fragile recovery of same at the very end of the movement. And in so many performances, the big climax, which Mahler writes with utmost power, and then it just goes over the cliff and just hits bottom with pow, crash with the tam-tam and the brass and all that stuff. This is not the most power-laden orchestra. The Czech Phil has always been a rather sinewy orchestra, but it's a transparent orchestra. You hear all of its flesh and bones, the skeleton of the music comes through in perfect balance, but it's all very audible. Here, though, that collapse has devastating emotional force. How does Ančerl do it? It's really an impossible question to answer. Other performances are noisier. Other performances, have a bigger bang at the bottom. But somehow, by the time you get to this, there is a quality to the playing of the orchestra and to the emotional ambience that Ančerl creates, which is so devastating. And it's one of those mysteries that we just have to accept, assuming everybody hears the same thing. And most people who've heard this performance really do hear that. The same is true of the inner movements. I told you about the klutzy, wonderful sound of the woodwinds in the second movement, but in the rondo burlesca is really a wonderful, wonderful case in point because many people play it much faster. Ančerl plays it in a measured way, somewhat similar to the way Otto Klemperer did it, where you allow all of the woodwind soloists to really bite. The music is mean. Mahler wanted it to sound nasty, hostile, violent, angry. And so often it sounds like a sort of abstract exercise in virtuoso counterpoint. Not here. Here you get the sense of strain, of punishing anger that, the music really conveys, and it's supposed to. And you only do that if you take it at a speed that allows the players to get into the emotion of the moment and really articulate what they're doing. It's a stunning performance, really a stunning performance, and a wonderful example of interpretation in the service of emotional expression. So we end with the finale, of course, the Adagio, which is not one of the slowest ones on record. Nowadays, people stretch it out to like half an hour. They want it to be as long as the first movement. Here, Ančerl is at what for its time was a rather slow tempo, 23 minutes and a bit, 23 minutes, 27 seconds or so. That was a very, very reasonable tempo. A little bit on the slower side, but today it's practically speedy. But what you get in this finale, taking it at that tempo, is that sense of urgency, of drama that continues. It's not like you have drama in 3 movements, and then the last movement it's just like, misery, lots of misery, dead, stasis, and misery. I mean, it can be sustained at that tempo. It really can be, and it can be thrilling when it is. Bertini does it, Levine does it. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but here, the anguish and the urgency of that for opening movement and the 2 middle movements continues, even though the tempo is very slow, even though Ančerl is not at any time seeming to rush. There's a flow and an inexorability to the music that's just really, really extraordinary. And so it is unquestionably one of the great recordings of Mahler 9. Some people have related this performance to Ančerl's own biography, as a Holocaust survivor who lost his family, and then came back to take over the Czech Phil as the only Jew that they would permit to conduct the Czech Phil. I mean, there's that unbelievable story about how when Zuzana Růžičková wanted to play with the Czech Phil with Ančerl, they wouldn't let her because they said, we already have a Jew. Really, it's unbelievable what these artists went through and what they did. And you may want to hear some sort of autobiographical significance in this enormously powerful and emotionally gripping performance. I don't think you need to. I think the emotion speaks for itself. I really do. But I wanted to throw that out there for those of you who are interested in such things. This is, without a doubt, one of the greatest recordings ever. So give it a listen and keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. And thank you, Finster. Finster. Oh, Finster. Thank you. Yoo-hoo. There. Thank you for paying attention. I appreciate it. There we go. Take care.